Last game of the week, fellas, we got the Brumbies versus the Hurricanes in Canberra. As I said before, Nelson and I hopefully will be over there, but we'll see how we go. The only new injury for this one was Duplessis Karifi was pulled pre-game, so we don't know his whereabouts and what's going to happen with him. But obviously the Brumbies have a few players coming back. They've rested Noel Alessio, so he should be straight back into the starting side. And Pete Samu was on the bench last week, I think just for a rotation and a rest as well, which is going to bring up a big selection headache for them. The last time they played, it was 32-27 in New Zealand. The Hurricanes got it done. The Brumbies were really disappointing in this game. This is probably the start of the turn of their season. Sorry?
Read what's written down there.
They were junk. They were junk without Ikitau, Tom Hooper, Jerome Brown, and Nos Lonergan. They were. This is a game I thought, the Hurricanes weren't playing as well as they are now, and I thought this is where they could just absolutely get it done, and they just didn't at all. The Hurricanes controlled the game pretty well, and it was really, really disappointing. So, yeah, I think this is the start of the turn of their season. It's going to be a big one to turn around.
Yeah, look, I think you're right, to be honest. This was one of the ones where they played a weaker team, sending them over to the Canes. And I think it was the beginning of what is looking like potentially the end, sadly, for the Brumbies. They're not the same team that, we saw midway through the season going, these guys are going to challenge absolutely anyone.
But it wasn't really a weaker team. They rested Ikitau and they rotated Lonergan. It wasn't really a weaker team.
Nah, I think there was a few more surely than
that.
They didn't have Tom Hooper back yet.
Yeah, that's a big one as well. But sorry, I did catch you off. Go on, else.
I think that it is something that the Brumbies are not really clicking like they had throughout a lot of the season. They were really going in the right direction. I think they can turn it around, and I think being at home is the saving grace for them in this one, because in New Zealand, having to do the flight over there, I think it would be quite tricky for them. It's a very good thing it is in Canberra.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you reckon the front row looks like, boys? I think Slips will be fit. Nos Lonergan, if he's around, we don't really know if he's fit or just been rotated and rested. And then tight head, who you got? Van Neck, Sesefo, Kautai. Who do you think it'll be?
I think Van Neck. I think a little bit earlier on in the year, he was the guy that got that start over Kautai. So for me, I think it's probably him. He's had some good outings there for them. I know Kautai started there last week, but I think Van Neck returning, I think from potentially he's returned from an injury. Was he out for a little bit as well? And he's worked his way back in. I think so.
Well, it's toss a flip a coin for me out of those two. I think Van Neck perhaps is the better scrummager. Kautai maybe offers a bit more, dynamic carrying things around the field. But I don't know. It depends. If you probably just want to lock down the scrum, I'd go with Van Neck. But yeah, moving on to lock selections. Look, with Caden Neville back last week, I think you just run out Caden Neville and Nick Frost. I think it's kind of a no-brainer. And then it does bring out, as Harry alluded to earlier, the selection headaches. Tom Hooper has been absolutely fantastic. He's one that we really, really like. How do you accommodate him? If you want to slot him in at 6, then you're going to probably run out, Jerome Brown and Valentini, which means you've got Samu on the bench. Do you chuck Pistol Pete in at 7?
I'll tell you what it is. And I said this to Harry a month ago before Hooper was starting. It's Tom Hooper at 6. It's Pete Samu at 7, and it's Valentini at 8. That is the mix they need. That is everything they need around the paddock. You have someone like Brown covering off the bench as well, and Samu and all the other boys can move around.
This is the same logic of best players on field? That's what we're going for?
Best players, best combination.
But also, Pete Samu can play 7. Let's be honest. He's done it at an international level before. He is a very good back row that can play across the whole back row. And God, it would just be insanity to me if he was sitting on the bench and Jerome Brown was in a starting jersey in the back row. It doesn't matter which jersey they're going for. Pete Samu gets it.
I agree. Pete Samu has to be in the paddock. But for me, it's Jerome Brown versus Tom Hooper. Hooper is making more tackles. He is pivotal in the line out. His work rate is, I reckon, he's probably hitting rucks more. The bloke is, doing so much around the field. I think he has to be the one.
Yeah.
Very good. Noah Loloseo straight back to start. Debs had a good game last week, but I think that's, again, no-brainer.
Yeah.
And then, look, Sapsford also had a good week at 12 last week. But for mine, their best centre pairing, their number one centre pairing is Tamati Tua and Ikitau. You disagree, Harry?
Yeah, I was singing the praises of Tamati Tua halfway through the season. I think he's had a very quiet back half. And I think Ollie Sapsford's really grown. So I actually would be surprised if it wasn't Sapsford at inside centre, Ikitau at 13. I just think that's the form pairing.
Nels, what about you?
Sadly, I think Harry makes sense. I have liked Sapsford growing into that role, throwing an offload, getting hands free. I do like Tamati Tua. I wouldn't be upset either way. But on form, sadly, Harry makes sense for once.
Very good. All right, Harry, building on that sense making, what can the Brumbies learn from the Crusaders' loss to the Canes last week?
You just want me to read my note. My note was don't play shit.
Insightful. This is the type of insightful commentary you can expect from the Draft Rugby Show.
Yeah. That's right. No, well, I don't think you can learn much from it because in the end, the Crusaders were dominating the first half, and in the second half, the Hurricanes had 82% territory, 62% of the ball, and I just don't think the Brumbies would ever let that happen. Their set piece is too strong, they're too well drilled, they're not going to actually concede penalties and knock the ball on that much. If they just work on their exits, Nick White kicks long and Noel Alessio plugs the ball around a little bit, I just can't see that happening. That is an extraordinary amount of territory that I just don't think will happen twice.
Yep, I'm inclined to agree with you. And I think the only other lesson, I mean, it's not really just to do with that game, but I think it's that you got to take the points and you got to take every opportunity. I think the Crusaders would be ruining. They had two missed opportunities there with Lester Fainga'anuku dropping a pretty easy to catch ball as he fell over the try line from a kick, and Christian Leo Willie on the back of a rolling maul getting kind of held up when he really should have just broken off and scored the try. So I think those missed opportunities really hurt them, and they did just fall apart in the second half. So you got to put some scoreboard pressure on against the Canes, and you just got to play for 80. And I agree with you. I can't see the Brumbies falling off like that. So Nels, Brumbies Maul, where's it been?
Oh, mate, it's a tough question. I think there's probably been, an evolution in the ways of defending them, I think, throughout the recent years. But I just don't think they're necessarily gelling as well. I mean, and numerous times throughout this season, we're not seeing the ball get to the back of the driving maul. We're seeing flankers holding it in tight. And then when it goes down, instead of being able to break off the back, it's your flanker getting caught in tight and the collapsed maul. They don't seem as cohesive in terms of, what the plan is moving forward. A cohesive, well-drilled maul is exactly what we think they are, but that's not someone getting stuck with the ball with two blokes behind them. So I don't think it's, panic stations for their maul, but I do think there's little things like that have to be ironed out, because if you've got one chance to do it and you're getting caught in there when you could have someone, like Noslonigan breaking off the back, I think that could be pretty detrimental to your outcome.
They're just trying to throw way too many variations. They just need to go, all right, all those trick plays we played all year, bin all of those, and let's just practice just the normal rolling maul for the week. And if we score 2 tries off of that, we'll probably win the game. Like it's that easy, isn't it?
100%. Is this just Coach Stephen Larkham being like, mate, give the ball to the backs, boys?
I think so, yeah.
So, very good. All right, well, let's talk about Hurricanes. Asafa Mua, if he is available and back from an injury, I mean, it was a couple of weeks ago was his neck, but he played not last week, the week before. I think he can only play if he's learned to throw a line out, to be honest with you. I think they lost an insane amount of lineouts when he played 2 weeks ago. He just could not throw it straight. But he obviously, other than that, offers a hell of a lot around the field. So I think they could seriously gain from having him start. And otherwise, in the front row as well, Xavier Numia. I think we called it in round 14. In round 14, he subluxed his shoulder or something. You reckon unlikely to be back, Harry?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't actually say what it was, but it looked very much the way that he was holding it, like he'd had a stinger, which is probably either an AC joint injury or a sublux of his shoulder. So it hasn't been long. It's a 2-week turnaround. So it's definitely on the cards, depending on how bad it was that he comes back. But God, it could be such a big scale of injury that he could be gone for 4 weeks or 6 weeks, or he could be back at 100% this week. So I think that's a worry for them, because I think he's been by far and away the best in his position. I just don't think Mafaleo offers quite as much. But flip a coin, I reckon.
Yep. Nels, take us through the locks and the back rows for the Hurricanes.
So looking at the locks, we've got Blackwell. He's the mainstay. He's been there for a long time, filling that role for them. And then they've got Delaney or Walker Leaweri as the option for 6. Look, I quite like Delaney. He doesn't have the experience. I don't think he is as physical in tight, but he's got a very good work rate. But Walker Leaweri, he's been a player that, we've expected big things from a long period of time. And, this is probably a moment for him to step up if he's given that shot.
Yep.
Duplex Karifi was an injury, so you'd think that he's unlikely to play, right? They haven't said at all what it is, but I think that's a big out for them.
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's the changes then. I mean, Sevilla, does he play 7? Flanders is their 6. I think there's not huge amounts of questions about that. So do we have Sevilla at 7? Then do we have Yossi come back into that 8 jersey yet again to fill that for them? He's been, a very good ball in hand player. He maybe needs to lift his work rate a little bit around the paddock, but I mean, he's a big name.
I think that's the obvious one, but there's one other option that I'm sure Cargill wants to get at.
I will get to. I was going to say, I think Yossi showed his worth with just that try off the back of the scrum where he bolted down the sideline last week. That was
easy.
Yeah. But no, I mean, look, just give the people what they want. Let's get Peter Lackey on, mate. Bring him on, big game player. They've saved him, saved the best class.
He's never played a big game. What do you mean, big game player?
So how do we know, mate? There you go. He's a big game player, man. I'm telling you.
He could be the biggest.
I've got it for you, right? Yossi at number 8, Sevilla at number 7, Peter Lackey at number 6.
Mate,
get all 3 of them.
I'm all here for it. Let's do it. Heading to the backs, a player that Harry thought he'd lucked out on with the fantasy loophole pick of a winger who was in the fly half fantasy position of Dan Sinkinson. I don't think he played well enough to don the 14 jersey again. So if Rayasi's still out and unavailable, which he is. Excellent. And Julian Sevilla is out and unavailable.
Yes.
Who else can they roll out in that 14 jersey?
I'm denied about all these elaborate options here, but it's pretty easy, mate. They put in Bale and Sullivan out there.
That is very easy.
It's so straightforward, isn't it?
Surely that's got to be the plan.
I was going, oh my God, they're going to have to put Geordie Barrett to fullback and then Morby to wing, and then that way they can pay Peter Mwanga Jensen at 12, or maybe they can bring in Ruben Love at 15 and push Morby across. But no, they're just going to put Bale and Sullivan at wing.
Surely that's the play, and we haven't seen enough of Bale and Sullivan. We've forgotten how good he is, so I agree with you.
You don't want too many moving pieces. And he'll be able to fill that role for them.
Yeah, totally. Very good. Anything else? I mean, the rest of the back line, I think, just picks itself, really. We've got Roy God. I've now donned him.
I like it.
Yeah, absolutely crushing it. Brett Cameron in at the 10 jersey there. And yeah, I mean, I think they really appreciated having Ruben Love come back from injury as well on the bench there. Can fill in at 15 or 10. So, but otherwise, the rest of the team picks itself.
I really feel for Aidan Morgan. I reckon he steered the team around really well this year in the absence of Brett Cameron. I don't know what their best choice is. I know Brett Cameron is a more mature, experienced player by a long margin, but Morgan's been good, particularly with Geordie Barrett at 12, to take a lot of the load of the organisation and long kicking. He just offers so much more taking it to the line, and he squares up the defence because of that. So I reckon they create more space for the opposite winger, for their wingers, by having Morgan there. So, look, I'm well aware that I'm probably in the minority and Brett Cameron's going to start, but I think Morgan's been good, and I just feel sorry for the bloke. He's had 2 good years and still seems to find himself down the pecking order.
Yeah, look, if you're not watching us on YouTube, you'll miss when Harry says, "I think I'm in the minority," and both Nelson and I nod on the screen, which it's just good for the full effect. But look, I think Aidan Morgan has been great, but Brett Cameron's your number 1 there for mine. He was brought in to be number 1, and he is number 1. But Very good. All right, tips on this one. Hurricanes and the Brumbies in Canberra.
And I think the Brumbies are going to get it done.
Look at that, with confidence. He said that with confidence and gusto.
Mate, I think they'll come good. I think they'll come good. There's enough in this team and there's enough experience. You get the A team back on and they're going to get it done. So I think they're going to win this one. And I think they're going to win it by, it's going to be tight. They're going to win it by 5.
Harry.
I think no Alan Alatoa hurts them as well. Just leadership, if nothing else. But I keep flip-flopping. The line is 0.5, and that's how I feel, because I just feel like it could go either way. I'm going to hope that the Brumbies get it done. So that's probably the only reason I'm tipping them by 3 points. But, geez, they're going to have to play differently to what they have been.
Very good. I deliberately made you go first so I can go last because I also have been flip-flopping. But I'm gonna say the Hurricanes are going to win. I think the Hurricanes will win, and I reckon by about 5 points.
Argy, this is your first time actually as an outlier, and you didn't say it. It's the first time you've been an outlier.
Come on, mate. Let's
what are you doing?
Let's move on.